Today I am heading out to a local auction. This auction is going to be very similar to a monthly horse sale that you can find pretty much anywhere across the United States. This auction is a few hours away, so it's going to take me a while to get there. I am heading up and over the Continental Divide today, so that's kind of cool. A lot of smaller monthly auctions around the country will sell tack before they sell horses. I brought a saddle to consign, but I was running pretty late, and by the time I got there, they had already sold all the tack. This auction barn is very similar to a lot of the ones you'll see. They sell a lot of cattle and then have some horse auctions separate. There were some young horses pre-advertised that I want to check out while I'm here. Most of the horses that were consigned are older trail type horses, some using horses. If you're new to my channel, I really like to focus on the horses that might slip through the cracks. Maybe they have not been fed very well, or they don't have a lot of training, and those are the ones that I like to buy when I come to these sales. This auction does have a catalog portion of horses that were pre-consigned. They also have a section of loose horses which are dropped off, and usually you don't have very much information on them. I noticed this older black horse. She was a little bit on the thin side. It's pretty common this time of year for people to sell their old horses that they're not using, and a lot of times you can pick up a really good-minded horse for kids or a beginner. I'm just gonna go through and check this mare over. I'm looking for lice. I'm gonna check her feet. She did have something that I wasn't expecting to see at this sale, and that was she had her tail done. I don't know if she's a gaited horse, maybe a Tennessee Walker. She had a couple brands on her that I didn't recognize. Her feet were in relatively good shape. So I put her on my list, and I messaged a few friends that were looking for kids' horses. I know a lot of people get intimidated about shopping at an auction like this, which is one of the reasons I started this channel. These sales usually have a ton of older horses that need a lighter workload and maybe some maintenance. This Rocky Mountain mare was super sweet. I saw a few trailers pull up to unload horses, so I went back and saw this guy coming off the trailer. He seemed to have minimal handling and was still a stud. They also unloaded two other horses that looked like they had been handled a little bit. I was able to talk to the owner about this horse. She was a 3-year-old that had been ridden a little bit as a 2-year-old, and then she had been turned out all summer. She's a little on the thin side, and since they won't be riding her through, she might be in my price range. This horse was just dropped off as well. He's pretty green, they said, but he'll be going loose as well. I have no idea about what the prices are going to be like at this sale or how many buyers are going to show up, so I really just looked at everything and wrote down a few notes about them. I did finally end up finding the two young horses that I came to look at. These fillies are actually the same age as Scarlet. They are both registered quarter horses. They're cow bred. They are a little bit more docile than I was expecting. You can tell that someone's put some work into them already. I just went around to try and get an idea of what their temperament was. I checked out their feet. They were pretty good with handling their feet. Overall, they were really chill girls. They are probably the nicest bred horses that are at the sale today, so I don't think that they're going to go for in my price range, but I think they'll probably be cheaper than they should be just because this sale's a little bit smaller, and I didn't see these horses advertised until a few days ago. I would happily snatch either one of these little girls up if they went for super cheap, but I don't think they're going to. After they moved all the new horses into pens, I wanted to check out this paint filly again. I could tell right away that this little filly has a pretty good temperament. It does look like she's lacking some nutrition, which is not a big deal. She's young enough that that can be fixed pretty easily. Her feet also looked really good. If she was plain brown, I would expect her to go for around $400, but with her being a paint, she could go for a little bit more. I am starving, so I'm gonna go grab some lunch and sit down and wait for the sale to start. The first couple horses sold for a few $1,000s. This little bay sold for $3,000. This is that cow bred quarter horse. She seemed really sensible in the ring. If someone was looking for a nice little project, this was a pretty good deal. She was $3,000. It did seem like a lot of buyers at this sale had the same budget. They were trying to stay around $3,000 to $4,000. This using horse sold for $2,700. He was a little on the thin side. This was another quarter horse filly. She sold for $3,000. The little roan quarter horse yearling was up next. And for a minute I thought she wasn't going to go for very much money, and then a bunch of people decided they really wanted to have her, and she ended up selling for $3,900, which I think was a really good deal. In Montana, a lot of people go out hunting and they use pack animals, and this mule was really nice. I was really surprised that nobody wanted to buy him. He no sale. The guy wanted $5,000, which is totally reasonable. This is that very first horse that I saw when I got to the sale. They did end up no selling this one as well. They wanted like $9,000 for him. Most of the horses seem like just gentle, basic broke horses. This one sold for $4,900. This one here was probably the most broke out of all of the horses at the sale. He was just a little cow pony that sold for $8,500 grade. After the catalog horses were done, they did have some open consignments. This older horse sold for $1,000. I was really surprised that this horse didn't sell for more because she seemed really broke and honest. It was a mare though, and she was a little shorter. This is that really pretty gelding that I saw earlier. He did end up selling for $3,000. Here is another one of those nice older horses that probably needs some maintenance. He ended up selling for $1,050. I didn't have to wait long for this super cute little filly to come in the ring. She was moving really sound, and she just has the coolest color. I had to put down my phone because I was going to bid on her. I really didn't expect her to go above $500, but it seemed like there was a few people interested in her, and after her price got higher than $650, I decided that I didn't need to take her home. I could buy a horse that looks like this at almost every sale that I go to, but I really like to save the space in my barn for the horses that are really in need. This little girl ended up selling for $1,000, and I think her color had a lot to do with it. This sale is a pretty good representation of your regular run-of-the-mill horse auction. It was nice to see a lot of private buyers step up for the older horses that needed a soft place to land. I believe this guy was a stud. He sold for $250. The paint horse stud also sold for $250, which is very typical of an unhandled stud at an auction like this. Not a lot of people are willing to take an unhandled stud, geld them, and then train them, especially if they're older. I'm not sure if I'll go back to this sale. It's pretty far away from my house, but it's a good way for you guys to see what a regular everyday sale is like. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.